So I'm gonna go to Chifundo. This question has been asked, but I think it's an important question. This is Betty from your country, from Malawi. How long does immunity last after the vaccination, after the vaccine? Yeah.
Right. I'll answer that question with a combination of another question. One of the participants, Masego, had asked, why is the PCR certificate being negative more important than a COVID vaccination test? So Pfizer and Moderna reported that immunity lasts about 6 months. And what they mean by that is that the measure of antibodies that's triggered by inoculation of the vaccine in the human body, when they go back and measure it after 6 months, it's gone significantly lower. But that doesn't mean that you don't need the vaccine, because we have the crisis right now. And it doesn't take away from natural immunity. There's no evidence at the moment that it takes away from natural immunity or affects it in any way. And so when you do get the vaccine, you still have your natural immunity in your defenses. But the issue is that takes a little longer to develop. And when natural immunity then kicks in, you have T cells and B cells, which are much harder to measure. Their levels are much harder to measure, because they give you your adaptive immune response. So you have the vaccines that will work faster. You also have your natural immunity that takes longer to develop, but the immunity that it could give you could last longer, but we just don't know how much longer, because it's really hard to measure it. Also, you have to factor in the variants. And we know that the 4 different vaccines were tested in different locations. Pfizer and Moderna were tested in the United States, and Johnson & Johnson and AstraZeneca were tested in South Africa when the variant was taking place, and yet still they did really well. And so, to answer the question, long story short, it will last about 6 months from the inoculation of the vaccine. To answer Masego's question about why a PCR test is more important, well, from what he said, is considered more important than a vaccination certificate, is because none of these vaccines are guaranteeing that you're not going to get an infection, but they are, however, guaranteeing that you're going to have less severe diseases and mortality rates. And one of the things that's been reported is that though some of the people that were enrolled in the clinical trial did end up getting the vaccine, the infection, irregardless of having received the vaccine, 100% of the participants were not hospitalized and none of them died. And that's the most important thing. So it's not about a negative test. It's not about getting vaccinated and that being the most important thing, because you can still get the infection. It's about preventing severity and death.
Thank you very much for that. I think that's a very important point, that the vaccine is not just about
if I'm ready.
Preventing. Okay. Yeah. All right. So yes.
I'm ready.
Dr. Chisema, you can add on. Then I would like to ask a question. Another question? Maybe for Emmanuel, and then I'll come back for the answer, Emmanuel. Somebody actually came to my house today and said, well, once I'm vaccinated, I'm safe to travel, So does it mean that if you're vaccinated, you will not get infected? Dr. Chisema, go ahead.
Yeah, I think the extension question was around these vaccines are weakening natural immunity. I think somebody shared that concern.
Yeah.
But I think what we know from the available data is that we are all at risk of COVID-19 disease or COVID-19 infection. And for your information, according to the evidence that has been there, the main issue around the vaccination is to protect severe disease. And there's an obvious and demonstrated evidence that the severe disease is actually in those people that are already having issues ranging from those that have got comorbidities, diabetes, which are immune-lowering conditions, hypertension, asthma, and many others, including HIV. So if there is a proposition that the vaccines are actually lowering the immunity, I should assume there isn't even evidence on that, except the evidence that is available that people that have got comorbid conditions, when they are vaccinated, they are actually protected from a severe disease. That's the strong and available evidence that everyone should be aware about, unlike the opposite evidence of what's being speculated. So that should assumed to be one of the misinformation or the myths that may be sticking around, just as somebody responded around the infertility issue. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Doc.